morning.
Good morning. Third straight year in your system. I think you bring back 9 of 11 starters and 1 new one is Christian Wilkins. There's a lot of continuity here from what you guys built last year. Do you feel that where the starting point is this year is a little bit different than where it's been your first few years?
Each season is so different, and the players, it's great to have some of the leadership back and the signal callers. That's a positive in terms of the relationship that I have with them and them being an extension of me out there on the field. But does it feel different? Slightly, yes. But we know what we have ahead of us, and I'm excited about that.
Patrick, how much because of all the changes last year midseason, how much do you get to change your defense this year? Do you I mean, obviously it worked really well, but you're known as a tinkerer.
I enjoy being in the lab, and with the players we have who have high football IQ, that embrace those challenges of the tinkering, I guess. It's definitely fun for me, and again, it goes back to each year's different, and if we just try to stay the same, people will catch up, and then we'll get passed by. So there's definitely a little tinkering going on. We'll see, what sticks, and we'll put, the best version of our defense out there, at the beginning of the season, and hopefully it keeps improving.
Part of that tinkering brought Tyree inside a little bit more as the year went on. Can we expect to see that a little bit more? And what are your observations of Tyree now that he's had an off season where he can really devote all of his focus to football?
Well, the moving the defensive end inside, that's always been a part of just like for any rookie edge rusher, both for myself and for Robbie Leonard, who's our D-line coach, who does a great job. It teaches them to use their hands, and because they're dealing with a more immediate block from the guard or the center. So I thought that was really critical to Tyree's development. That's going to help him out on the edge. I've told you before, we utilized that before in the past, the different spots I've been. So that was good. And then with the whole offseason, he's doing what everybody else is doing. I don't want to single him out, but they're all working hard. They got a great kinship or camaraderie going on in that D-line room, and it's infectious, and it's spreading throughout the defense, and you can always feel those guys out there on the field. Whether you hear them or you feel them, it's a beautiful thing to see.
How big is it that Tyree's healthy, though? He doesn't have to worry about trying to rehab. All he has to do is worry about just football.
Good. That's an easy answer. I could, go on and on, but good.
So what does like a disruptive force like Christian Wilkins do to the middle of your defense, and really for everybody else in the defense do?
Well, Christian, the good thing about that, he's been successful in this league in the past. I was fortunate to be there in Miami his rookie year, and just to see the player he's developed into is pretty, awesome to see. And obviously, that's another tool for us to use on defense. That's going to be positive for us in terms of. I think he's someone that requires, multiple hands on him, or let me say, more than 2 sets of hands on him. So that's a positive right there. You got him, you got Max, and then the other guys, John Jenkins. He's tough to block one-on-one. It's something that we preach with our defense. You can't get blocked one-on-one, and the more guys that you have that can, get that done and have production off of that, the better off we'll be in terms of our pass defense, run defense altogether.
You talk about how infectious that defensive line is in the development of Christian Wilkins, not just as a player, but as a leader. Have you noticed, or what are the changes you've noticed just in him as a leader and being vocal with the rest of that line?
Even when he was a rookie, I don't want to live in the past, he was vocal, he had leadership, he knew he was good. That's why he was drafted where he was drafted. And now you see he's just matured as a man. He just matured as a man, and not to say he was immature before, but it's just fun to see guys develop and grow. You drafted them for a reason. Whether it was Chris and Flo at Miami, they drafted him for a reason, to see him mature and where he's at in the NFL in terms of being one of the better players on the interior. It's just fun to see that development.
Patrick, when new position coaches are added, a lot of coaches make that decision or general managers, but AP wanted you in the process. What did you like about Ricky Manning that really stood out to you as a cornerback coach?
Ricky, he comes well, respected in terms of his football knowledge, his energy, and he played the position. Been fortunate. I like the fact that we've had DB coaches. Jason Simmons, who's now at Washington. guys that done it, you know, especially for me who, you know, again, I've been more of a front guy my whole career. It's always a benefit for those players to have somebody that's done it, you know, and I think players gravitate to that, you know, just like they did the last 2 years.
When you face the two tight end defense or offense, what kind of challenges does that present?
One, they can have 2-3-man surfaces. You know, it's a benefit for us when you have an open surface. So when I mean open surface, a 2-man surface. That's a benefit. How are they going to deal with that? Especially when you have a player like Max or a player like Malcolm who's on the edge. Like, how are they going to account for him? Are they going to leave him singled, or are they going to bring somebody over? Once you go to 12 personnel, you got a chance to close both edges, which makes it tougher on the pass rush. Then the check with me run game that comes into play there, and then if you have the unique situation of having pass catching tight ends, one time the formation could look like traditional 12, next time it could look like traditional 11 personnel, it could look like 21 personnel. So it forces us to go through a bunch of communication, and it's good to get that work.
I know it's a small sample size so far, but what have you seen from Richardson, and what are you looking for him to do to grow to become a consistent contributor this year?
Like most rookies, has a lot to learn, but he is long, and he is fast, and he's willing to work. So those 3 things right there, I'm good. So those are positive. When you got somebody, I mean, so when you're long, fast, and you're willing to work, I mean, it's something to work with, but he has a long road ahead of him as a rookie. He just doesn't know yet, you know, that's the only thing.
Along those same lines, Trey Taylor is a presence, I think, was as a leader and as a player he has been throughout his college career. What have you seen out of him, and what are your expectations been for him at this level?
Just in terms of, again, I want to single out the rookies, but thankfully they've been all in here working really hard. And I believe that, you know, his leadership is, whether he was a leader before or not, he's going to be forced into a leadership role as a safety. They got to make communication calls. They got to talk to the corners. They got to talk to the linebackers. They have to talk to the front. So interested to see how it plays out. You know, this is day 2 of being out there on the field with the vets. You know, it's going to be a lot different talking, you know, to whoever it was at Air Force or one of those rookie mini camps, and now you got to make a call to Malcolm. You got to make a call to Spillane. You know, these are grown men that, you know, you got to say it with some authority, get it out, be right, or they might turn around and look at you crazy. So, so he has a lot to learn. But thankfully, we got, you know, GA is a great coach, and he's working with those guys.
Patrick, you mentioned some of the younger cornerbacks and defensive backs, but Ja'Cory and Bennett went through that process last year, and there was some good, there were some struggles, typical of a rookie player. What did you see in terms of the growth for him and how it's kind of applied to where he is right now?
Part of it is just, you know, getting the reps. You got to see it, you know, until, you know, you have these dreams of being in the NFL. You know, you play high school ball, play college ball. You get here and you just realize it's a different game. It just is. I mean, there's still tackling, blocking, you know, all that stuff right there, but it's a different game. And seeing the route combinations, understanding that they're going to try to isolate you for the run game, you know, with crack replace situations. So what I've seen is the film study. I've seen him ask the right questions. I've seen him narrow down what his focus is by stage. So phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, and being able to really zero on that so he can improve his craft, and then leading into training camp.
Let's do 2 more. Let's go to
the biggest terms of
Sean
growth
Grace.
with Malcolm Koonce, from the time that maybe you met until now, like, is there a main attribute that you really seen him develop?
For Malcolm,
Mm-hmm.
okay, 2 weeks ago, we were doing drills during the phase 2 process, and I was in the back of the D-line group, and I just saw him coaching up one of the younger players. And I mean, coaching them up with authority. It's like this, do that. Once you see that, that's showing command of his craft. And when you hear that, you know, it just, again, I tell you guys all the time, as a teacher who happens to teach football, I mean, I was just proud. I was giddy, you know. I mean, I don't know if defensive coordinator should use the term giddy, but I was giddy. I mean, just to see him do that. So now you're seeing a young man, you know, developing true mastery of his craft, where he's able to go ahead and, you know, coach others up with authority. I was impressed. It's just the confidence he has right now.
Last one to Sean.
Pat, last season, something a few players said pretty often is that you've been pushing them to not just be a good defense, but be a great one. What do you feel like you guys need to accomplish this year in order to make that leap?
Put in the work, keep, extending the goal a little bit each day. I know all the guys talk about 1% each day. That's what we gotta do. Just put in the work, keep pushing that line forward a little bit more, and we'll see how the chips fall, but that's the most important thing. And thankfully, we have a bunch of guys on the team who are high achievers. I like to think of myself as someone that wants to achieve high goals, and we set those goals and we do what we gotta do to try to accomplish them.
Next question.
All right, thanks.
Thanks, Coach.
Yep.